So I'm with Gabby and Rebecca. We just finished this awesome seminar. Everybody's so stoked. And what we're going to do is give a couple of examples. We couldn't film the whole thing, but at least we can give you a couple of really, interesting examples as to how we work at the Learning Center. And then you guys can chime in as far as, what are the scientific data and the backup that, and the experiences that you've had that would, and maybe something that would help improve upon, one of these tasks. So we talk about how the best way to send a golf ball to a target is in the air with a nice velocity. The best way to send a ball in the air is to cut grass. Now, what most people don't realize, let me get one of my clubs here, is if you look at how Ping designs a golf club, notice the little notch in the hosel here. See that?
Yeah.
So there's a little notch in the hosel right there that allows you to cut grass from there to there, so you get better turf interaction with this. It also helps them adjust the clubs better as well, but the primary reason for that was to cut grass. So if I was in my backyard cutting grass with my grass whip, and you can get this particular tool for $15.95 at most hardware stores, is if I was cutting grass in my backyard, I'd be using a little bit of velocity and you notice how I'm able to do it from both sides. So the best way to use your anatomy to perform that is, and we use the analogy of a ball on a string. So if I had a ball on a string and I was twirling that, I was, feeling the weight of the ball. And so right now I'm keeping the ball going by, when the ball's is up, I'm pulling down. When it's down, I'm pulling up. And I'm not thinking about this. So if I only had one arm and I was cutting grass with just one arm, well, here's that ball on a string. So the center of that motion is right here in my shoulder socket. So all I'm doing is I'm allowing, gravity and the G-forces to place my arm, and then I'm feeling how the blade is going with the ground. So basically I've just created a lawnmower. So I want to walk around my backyard, I'm just cutting grass. So when I put both arms on the club, if this body doesn't move out of the way, then I'm basically going to hit myself twice every time I take a swing. So the arm at the shoulder level must have complete freedom to execute that motion. And so we talk about well, here comes the arm, don't let it hit you, let it swing past you. So if I'm letting the arm swing past me towards something, like if you're going to take a ball and toss a ball, and the way you do that, here, toss one over to me. So notice how you're tossing from the shoulder. Now if you turn to your side, there we go, toss it to me. Notice how your body got out of the way? If you don't let the body get out of the way, your arm's going to collide into your rib cage, and off the ball goes to the side.
Point. Let me do that again.
So in essence, so you're, that's good velocity there. Ball coming over to me from the side, right? Perfect. So if you did that with your left side as well, you'd have a golf swing. So all we're basically doing is one for you, one for you. And so when I want this arm to move in that direction, right away the brain goes to the ground, uses the ground to remove the body out of the way. That's the way that we talked about your automated systems. And that's what I want to dive into. So when you're thinking about a body part, then you're basically canceling this automated system. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
So if I want this arm to go toward the camera, then my focus is on the camera. I got this object here that I want to send to the camera. There it is. So the brain basically goes to the ground, uses the ground to get the body out of the way. There's your kinetic chain. And you have that from a little chip shot to a full out sling. So without the external focus, and you start thinking about what body parts you're going to use, it's virtually impossible to get there.
Yeah,
and the cool thing about when you showed the muscles, and when somebody says, okay, use your calf to put, think about your calf muscle to put pressure, and both sides of the leg were being activated, well, there's a lot of wasted motion there, and you could see when somebody says just put pressure on the pad, and then the brain was using the muscular system a lot more effectively, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when we talk to our student, we say, okay, here's the purpose of how to put the ball in the air. So here's a dandelion in disguise, right? So I got my dandelion. And I want to cut the stem of my dandelion using my ball and a string. So I gather and I cut through the stem of the dandelion. So notice how the ball didn't move. So if I use a golf club, so a golf club is essentially a grass cutting tool with a club face on it. So I go, okay, there's my dandelion on the stem. I can see, so where I put my eyes are going to go here, and I see how the leading edge of the club is in a perfect position to cut the dandelion stem. So I'm just going to let the sole of the club cut through the stem. So now all of a sudden the ball strikes the face and leaps into the air, and I've got myself a golf shot. But my attention was on cutting through the stem in a specific direction. And then so we catch our students where they go, okay, you know, they hit the shot and they misfired. I always ask them, what were you focused on? And they go, I forgot.
Or they focus on the swing itself.
Right. So they let this outside distraction, you know, pull the focus off what they were trying to do. So then I go into, okay, well, what's it going to sound like, and what's it going to feel like when the sole of the club cuts through that dandelion stem?
Exactly.
And so I try to use the senses. That's why when one point we were talking about the senses, we're using the senses to increase the attention on the task at hand versus, well, if the ball's your target, essentially what's happening, if I'm skipping a stone on water, I'm going toward the WP sign. That's our wet paint sign.
I see.
So you see how I put some targets behind there. And so there's how I'm skipping the stone below the wet paint sign. So the first thing the brain did was go to the ground, use the ground to get my body out of the way so I can release in that direction. So if that's my target, I don't really need to shift that much weight and clear my hips because I'm already facing my target. And so what happens when the brain has this as a target, well, there, I've hit the ball. And so there's no reason to keep the body moving because the destination's been achieved. Versus I'm going to take the ball and put it out there. But most people go, well, how do I do that? They don't have an image as to what needs to happen.
Right.
So we show them how to cut dandelion stems. Another thing we use is, if this was a door frame and I wanted to take a golf ball and squish it into the side of a door frame, as if a hammer to a nail, right? So if I take the club face and try to apply that pressure to the door frame, well, the ball will creep up the club face and leap into the air. So we have carpenters and we have gardeners, right? So another way of doing that carpentry is we put it out, we put the piece of wood here, and we teach our students how to plane wood. So we just have the sole of the club deliver across the board, and we put a ball there, and they go, really? Wasn't there supposed to be grass underneath there? And then they plane the wood, and the ball hits the center of the face and goes into the air, and they're bewildered at how easy that is. I'm going, well, you've seen golf professionals hit it off cart paths all the time. And now when you're faced with hitting a shot out of a divot, all you got to do is imagine that board at the bottom of the divot and just go ahead and plane the wood through the bottom of the divot, and the ball will meet the face and go into the air. So that makes, I mean, that's right down the flying mile of external focus, isn't it?
It is, yes. And it's really quite remarkable how the body knows what it has to do to, hit the target, accomplish the goal. Things just fall into place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So now with the tools that, so you guys have talked about giving our students a choice, autonomy. And so I'm going to get creative as to what drills they want to use in order to accomplish.
The board first or the grass cutter?
Yeah, exactly. And the motivational stuff for me, that's really used. How are we going to create tasks that are not too easy, but by the same token, not too difficult. Like one of our students was talking about how he sent his son to a junior camp, and he was overhearing the lesson, and here he is, this 8-year-old kid, and the person's saying, well, you got to hold it like this, you got to make sure your wrists are doing that, you got to make sure your arm is straight, you got to make sure of all, like that image that you put at the beginning of the of your talk.
Yes.
And they completely lost the kid. The kid was crying and didn't want to do it anymore, and it just completely destroyed any possibility for this kid to play golf, because it was all incredibly overwhelming work.
Yes.
Right?
And it's ineffective, and it doesn't work. The kids lose confidence. Anybody would. They're not interested. Yeah.
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 So, so it's been awesome to have these two individuals show us all the research and the backing behind it, and I hope that we'll and if any of you now, if anybody wants to see your paper.
Sure, that's available. It's on my website.
Perfect. I'll put it in the
website.
Yeah, in the description. We'll put their website in the description, and you can go in and check out their most recent paper. You delivered it in a beautiful fashion today. It's a lot better in person. So we're just very happy that you guys came.
Thank you very much, Shawn. It was a pleasure being here.